Take a look at the grid on your screen or the spreadsheet taped to your desk right now. It is July, which means you're likely staring at rooms, names, and time blocks trying to solve a puzzle that seems to have three fewer pieces than you actually need. We've all been there. You move a section of third period algebra to fix a conflict with special education inclusion, only to realize that you inadvertently created a six-period day with no prep for one of your science teachers. It's tempting to view this entire process as a giant annual game of logistical Tetris. But if we step back, a harsher reality becomes clear. The master's schedule is not a math problem, it is a values document. Every single minute you allocate is a high stakes decision about what matters and what doesn't. If you want to know what a school truly believes about student learning, collaboration, and equity, don't read their mission statement hanging in the foyer. Look at their master's schedule. In this episode, we are going to look past the logistics of rooms and periods to uncover the invisible structural tensions that quietly derail our best intentions. And we are going to re-engineer the schedule so it actually supports the work that we expect our teachers to do.
This is Your Morning Boost, recorded in the Forward Ed Network studios. A weekly spark for educators and school leaders ready to lead, teach, and live with greater intention. This is Your Morning Boost.
Welcome to Your Morning Boost, brought to you by AWB Education and Media, right here on the Forward Ed Network. I'm your host, Adam Bush, and if you are listening to this on its release date of July 8th, you are likely in the thick of the midsummer crunch. And for some of you, your building is completely empty, except for your custodians and the hum of the wax floors that are drying. For others, on a year-round or modified calendar, your students might already be walking through the front doors. But wherever you are on that spectrum, July is a crucial period for systems design. It is the window where we transition from the high-level visionary talk of June's leadership retreats into those granular structural realities of a new school year. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into an operational anchor that every single administrator must grapple with, and that's the master's schedule. We often talk about school improvement as an exercise in changing mindsets or adopting new curricula, or maybe even delivering better professional development. But the truth is, you can have the most inspired staff, the most research-backed resources, and the most data-driven goals and still see zero growth if your daily schedule just fights against those initiatives. So today we are going to move beyond the basic mechanics of scheduling software and analyze the structural bottlenecks that break our systems before the first bell even rings. Now, let's be honest. When you first sit down with the master schedule matrix, your immediate survival instinct is just to make it fit. You need to make sure you do not have 80 students assigned to a classroom built for 25. You need to ensure your shared elective teachers have travel time between buildings. You need to verify that physical education classes do not conflict with lunch transitions. All of those things are the explicit, visible problems that scheduling software is designed to flag for. But there's a second layer of conflicts, and these are the invisible ones. This is the thing that no software will ever highlight. These are the systemic contradictions where our stated values clash directly with our realities. Think about your building for a second. Think about the goals that you just wrote into your school improvement plan, or maybe presented to your superintendent or your board. Let's say your primary building goal this year is to improve Tier 2 reading intervention outcomes. Pretty common goal for a lot of us. So we go and we purchase a targeted intervention program. We train our coaches, we train all the staff, and our data meetings, they're already on the calendar. That's the plan. We've got a great plan moving forward. But now let's look at the schedule that you're finalizing this month. To make the minutes work out for state compliance, you've carved out a 30-minute intervention block at the very end of the day, right after the final elective period. Or perhaps you placed it concurrently with advanced elective courses, which then forces a choice between academic remediation and student engagement. When you look closely at that design, you realize you have built a structure where the lowest performing students are expected to receive their most intensive, cognitively demanding instruction at 2:45 p.m., when their energy is depleted, or maybe you've created a system where entering intervention feels like a penalty that strips away their favorite part of the school day. We've all seen this play out. By October, the intervention data is flat. The leadership team meets, and the immediate conclusion is that, often the intervention program is ineffective or that teachers lack the skill to execute it. But is that true? Or did the system fail the program before a single lesson was taught? Your school improvement plan is just a wish list until it's codified into the master schedule. The clock doesn't lie about your priorities. If we value intervention, it must occupy prime real estate in the school day. It cannot be an afterthought that's tucked into the margins of the morning announcements or into the dismissal rush. Here's what's interesting. When you audit a master schedule through the lens of values rather than logistics, then we begin to see how structural inefficiencies create cultural friction. Consider the classic tension between departmental desires and student-centered pathways. In many of our secondary buildings, the master schedule is built around department preferences, or maybe even teacher seniority. Teacher A has always taught the AP sections during first period. The math department needs their preps aligned so they can eat lunch together. This group has a lot of coaches that frequently leave at the end of the day, so we need to give them their planned eighth period. When we prioritize those adult preferences, the downstream effect is almost always a restriction of student access. Suddenly, a student who needs a remedial support class cannot take the high-level art elective because they are scheduled at the exact same time. The structure has forced an artificial ceiling on that student's opportunity. And as leaders, we have to train ourselves to read the master schedule like we read a financial audit. Every period is currency. Every minute is an investment. If your district goals state that equity and access are your top priorities, but your schedule systematically funnels your most experienced teachers into elective tracks, while your novice teachers or your long-term substitutes inherit the high-needs foundational courses, your schedule is actively working against your mission. We have to move away from asking, does this schedule work without conflicts? And start asking, what does this schedule say that we value most? If a stranger walked into your main office, picked up your master schedule grid, and analyzed nothing but the distribution of time, resources, and personnel, would they be able to guess your school's improvement goals? If the answer is no, then the schedule, it's not an operational tool. It's an operational barrier.
This segment is sponsored by Grunmeyer Leader Services. Since 2013, GLS has been a trusted partner for school districts across the Midwest, specializing in executive recruitment and leadership support. They believe that great schools start with great leaders, and they are here to help you find the perfect fit for your district. Transform your school's future with the right leader. Visit GrunmeyerLeaderSearch.com to learn more. Grunmeyer Leader Services, transforming education one leader at a time.
Now let's move from the macro view of scheduling priorities down to the operational reality of how teachers and teams experience the day. This brings us to a concept called the collaboration tax. We have all established PLCs, or our professional learning communities, common planning times. We've all got these established in our buildings and in our building schedule. We know the research. Teachers working collectively to analyze student data and design common assessments, and then adjust instructional practices based on that data. It's one of the highest leverage strategies that are available to us in education. So as good systems thinkers, we protect 45 or 50 minutes in the daily schedule for teams to meet. We check the box. The schedule says PLC time. But let's look at how that actually functions in practice. If your master schedule requires a teacher to teach 3 different preps across 2 different grade levels, and their common planning time is shared with colleagues who do not teach those same courses, then we've created a structural mismatch. We are asking them to collaborate, but the schedule has isolated their actual daily work. Furthermore, think about a physical geography of your building. If a middle school team's classrooms are scattered across 3 different wings, and their 50-minute planning period requires a 5-minute walk each way, plus 2 minutes to drop off students and 3 more minutes to retrieve materials, that 50-minute block is instantly reduced to 40 minutes of actual face to face time. If you multiply those lost 10 minutes across 4 days a week over 36 weeks, that's 24 hours of collaborative capital that's just lost purely to spatial and structural design. That's the collaboration tax we're paying. It is the price our staff pays in time and energy for a schedule that is logistically valid, but operationally inefficient. If your intervention block forces teachers to choose between filling gaps and introducing new standards, then we haven't built a system. We've built an operational trap. So let's unpack that specific trap because it happens every year during the second week of September. We've successfully preserved a 45-minute daily intervention and enrichment period, and on paper, it looks beautiful. But because of how the sections are distributed, we didn't have enough staff to keep class sizes small during that block. So our 7th grade math teacher has 32 students in her intervention section. Half of them are missing foundational 3rd grade fraction concepts. The other half are ready for algebraic extensions. So the teacher stands in the middle of that room during that block, looking at a massive spread of student needs with no additional adult support, while simultaneously feeling the pressure of the pacing guide for the core curriculum that picks up again right away next period. So what happens? The system forces that teacher to make an impossible choice. Do they slow down and address the systemic gaps, knowing that they will fall behind on the district benchmark pacing? Or do they forge ahead with grade level standards, knowing that they are leaving 16 students behind? That's not a teacher efficacy issue. That's a design flaw. When we build schedules that require these heroic individual efforts from classroom teachers just to survive a standard instructional block, we are not leading at that time. We are managing a broken machine. So how do we solve this while sitting at our desks in July? We have to design our schedules with operational buffers and explicit parameters. First, look at your common planning structures. If you're going to mandate collaboration, you must schedule the personnel before you schedule the classes. This means your grade level or departmental teams are anchored into the matrix first, completely non-negotiable. Everything else, including high-level singletons or specific elective tracks, must be built around those collaborative anchors. If a singleton course creates a conflict that breaks a common planning time for an entire core department, that singleton has to move, or we have to find an alternative delivery model for that specific student pathway. Second here, consider the concept of parallel scheduling for intervention blocks. If you want an intervention block to actually work, you cannot schedule a single grade level or a single department in isolation during that time. We need to schedule entire bands or contiguous teams simultaneously. And why? Because flexibility requires a pool of human resources. If all 4 teachers on an 8th grade team are in an intervention block at the exact same time, they can pool their students. One teacher can take the 8 students who need that intensive structured literacy intervention. Another can take the 12 who need specific target extensions. The remaining 2 teachers can split the rest of the cohort for some guided practice and current standard reinforcement. Suddenly, through this power of scheduling, we've reduced the instructional range within each room. We've given our teachers a fighting chance to actually differentiate instruction because the master schedule has pre-sorted the environment to allow for targeted impact. We didn't hire more staff. We didn't buy a new $1 million program. We simply used the hours we already had, and we just used them more intelligently.
Are you ready to transform your school or classroom? Join hosts Adam and Jim on Control Shift Lead, the monthly podcast on the Forward Ed Network. Every episode, they bring in top educators from across the United States to deliver 3 game-changing insights, something you can control in your work, something that will shift your thinking, and something you can use to lead tomorrow. Don't just manage, lead. Subscribe to Control-Shift-Lead today.
As we wrap up our conversation today, let's step back from the spreadsheets and the logistics for a moment. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the schedule sitting on your desk, just remember that no master schedule is ever going to be perfect. There is no mythical, flawless configuration where every teacher gets their ideal prep period, every student gets their first choice elective, and every intervention block operates with a 5-to-1 ratio. Resource scarcity is a permanent reality of school leadership. The goal is not to build a perfect schedule. The goal is to build an honest schedule. An honest schedule is one that matches your school's actual resources with its stated promises. If you promise your community that every child will learn to read on grade level, your schedule needs to reflect that promise in the allocation of your best reading teachers and your most protected instructional blocks. If you promise your teachers that you value their professional growth and collaboration, your schedule must protect their planning time from the constant erosion of duties and coverage and structural isolation. As you go back to your matrix this week, look at it with fresh eyes. Don't just look for conflicts in room numbers or teacher assignments. Look for conflicts in your values. Look for those small design traps that will create big frustrations 2 months from now. Fix them now. Fix them in July when the cost of moving a section is just a few clicks of a mouse, rather than October when the cost of a broken system is staff burnout and flat student data. You have the agency to shape how the school day feels for every adult and child in your building. Treat that grid not as an administrative chore or task, but as your most powerful tool for school improvement. Thanks for being part of this amazing work, and thank you for spending your time with us. We really appreciate everything that you do for your students and your community. It takes a real special person to lead a school building. Thank you for being one of those special leaders. We'll talk with you again next week.
That's your morning boost from AWB Education and Media. If this episode helped you reset your thinking or take your next step forward, share it with a colleague. And don't forget to subscribe so your next boost is ready when you need it. Keep showing up with intention. Keep moving forward, and we'll see you next time.